Welcome to the StarSeed Academy. My name is Tyler, and today we're going to be talking about Moldavite and why you should be using it in your shadow work. So let's get into it. I think we should start by establishing what shadow work actually is. So shadow work is essentially you handling your shit, right? It's dealing with all the traumatic things that have happened to you, that might be physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever. You know, we all have baggage, right? It's handling your baggage. And why would you want to do that? It's unpleasant. None of us like it, right? But if it's not handled, you can never heal, you can never grow. And it's that saying of, if you don't heal, you end up bleeding on someone who didn't cut you kind of thing, right? You see it a lot in relationships where a broken person leaves a relationship or was left and moves on to another person trying to fill that void in them instead of filling it themselves. They look for someone else to fill it, and what they end up doing is they bring that trauma to the new relationship and they bleed all over the new person. Now that person's damaged and the cycle repeats. So by doing shadow work, by looking at these situations that were traumatic and taking a position more of the conscious observer instead of identifying as the human meat suit, right, our body, our ego, we look at it from a perspective of a higher perspective. Like I personally, when I look at it, I don't know why, I've never even been there, but I picture myself sitting on a bench at Times Square, or Central Park, I'm sorry, not Times Square, Central Park. And I've looked it up, where I'm seeing in my head actually exists. Like I've seen it in pictures, it's the weirdest thing. But wherever that is for you, you know, I've heard people say it's by a stream, you know, whatever. The idea is you have somewhere where you are comfortable, and where you're watching, right? You are the watcher. And what I personally see is, as the people go by, the scenario that comes to mind for me, usually during meditation is when I do shadow work. That scenario, that event might come by and I see myself and the person who wronged me. And this event is playing out, okay? And now one of two things can happen. I can either A, let them walk on by. Let's say I'm not ready to deal with that trauma. Let's say it's still too painful and it's, you know, that like flinch, pull away kind of reaction that we have when something's just, it's still too much. That's fine. Let them walk on by. The second option is, if it's not, you sit, you give them your focus, you give this event your attention, and you watch it play back out. And from this position of, in this scenario, me sitting on the park bench, I can watch it unfold. I can see from the third person instead of in the moment, right? Recalling it. From my perspective, I can now see from a third person perspective, and so can you. Therefore, you can see both sides of the story, right? You can see how you felt and what you were thinking and why you said and did the things that you did. But you can also see the same for the other person, right? You can see maybe someone who wronged you, their fear, their doubt, their uncertainty, and understand that they're human too, and that they're growing, and that they are on their own journey of evolution, and they're not perfect. So did they hurt you? Yes. But you get to take a look at why. It's not because they're malicious necessarily. In some cases, yes, there are just bad people. But in a lot of cases, it's because they were hurt by someone else, they did not heal, and they brought it to you. Bleed on someone who didn't cut you. So, by doing this, you are taking the steps to heal. So you don't bleed on other people, and the cycle doesn't repeat. You create not only the best version of yourself, but the best versions of other people too. Okay, so now the question is, I mentioned Moldavite. For those of you who don't know, Moldavite is a tektite, it's a crystal, it's an esoteric thing. If you're into that, I am. Clearly, I have it on. A lot of people, especially now, talk about Moldavite, they talk about it absolutely obliterating their life, destroys everything, whatever. To an extent, yes. I mean, it did mine, but at the same time, it was all for the better. And I have a life far exceeding anything I thought I would have. So it's not bad. What it's doing is it's clearing away things that no longer serve you, that you think do, that you think you want. But let's be real. We're no different as adults than we were as kids. You don't know what the hell you want. I don't. I can't even decide what I want for breakfast, let alone what I want in life. So the other thing though that Moldavite does is it brings these traumatic events that need dealt with, it brings them from the shadows, shadow work, into the light. Right? It brings them to our attention. It has them cross our path in front of that bench that we're sitting on. And it's kind of like an onion, right? Our traumas are layered deep through our subconscious mind. And it takes more than one time. You're not going to do this in one go. And sometimes the same events will come back, but they're hitting differently, right? They're registering differently in your mind. But so for those of you who haven't seen, this is a little piece of Moldavite. And like I said, what it does is essentially just, I don't want to say forces, because nothing can force you to do anything unless you allow it. Cat butt. What it does is it encourages you to look at these events, at these traumas, and seek resolution for them in yourself. Because when it comes down to it, you will never find, and listen to this, you will never find resolution for an event from someone else. The person who wronged you could come up and be like, hey, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I'm sorry I hurt you. It's torn me apart. Like the best apology you could ever want. And the fact is, while it makes you feel better, it doesn't give you closure. Only you can give you closure. Okay? Think about that. Only you are in charge of your own happiness. That includes traumas. You are the one who gets to decide if you are over that trauma and if it affects you anymore, not them. So, using Moldavite helps bring these traumas up. Because it's a high vibrational crystal, tektite, material, whatever, because technically, I hate to break to you all, it's by definition not a crystal. Crystals have crystalline structures, meaning replicating, repeating structures. It doesn't, but whatever. It's very high vibrational, and high vibration is that higher intelligence, that third person disconnected from the body kind of view, that mindset, right? Being able to look from the outside in, which is what we're trying to do, which makes it great. It's not the only option, but given the fact that it really drudges up those emotions, it makes it probably the best option for shadow work, in my opinion. Now, you're also bringing up all this traumatic shit. All right, no one enjoys that. I didn't. You know, it hurt. It hurts. It still hurts, right? But you got to work through it. Now, the thing that I have found, and this is a coupling, a pairing for Moldavite, is actually another tektite, which this is a big piece, but this is black tektite. Now, what black tektite does is essentially sucks in negative energy. Now, your thoughts are energy. Your emotions are energy. Look at the breakdown of emotion. E-motion. Energy in motion, right? Cool, right? So, if those are all energy, and this absorbs negative energy and dispels it, that sounds awfully handy when you're going through traumatic memories, right? And you're trying to seek resolution for them. So what I like to do is to couple my Moldavite with a black tektite. The other appeal to black tektite is, while this is expensive anymore, black tektite is still really, really cheap. So you can get a nice hand-sized piece, you know, something to hold on, something to fucking fidget spinner with while you're going through this. So, it works great, it absorbs negative energies, dispels them, which makes going through those traumas much, much more pleasant. Where you're not kind of just having to handle it alone, you have almost like a buffer, right, between you and this traumatic event. So, those are my suggestions for shadow work. I have found it's made it a lot easier. Shadow work is an ongoing, constant thing that you have to deal with because we're always constantly going through new traumas, and that's okay because it's part of the learning. You can't have light without the dark. It's the yin and yang concept, right? You can't have good without the bad, because if you had no bad, how would you know that something was good for you? You wouldn't, right? In this perspective. So, I think that probably concludes the videos for today. I'm feeling it. I think that's it. If you're interested in any of the crystals that I did talk about in this video, I do have an Etsy shop. The link will be down in the description if you'd like to buy them. I try to give you guys the stuff as cheaply as humanly possible because the goal here is to help people, not to not to make bank, which it seems to be. That's what, especially for Moldavite, what everyone's doing nowadays. So if you like them, you want to support the channel, if you like the video, consider going on down. If you did like the video, I'd appreciate it if you threw it a like, subscribe, leave me a comment, even if you hated it. Say you hated that I constantly keep fidgeting with my glasses because they keep slipping. And I'll see you guys on the next one.